say I would go and get my hair done, and I'd be feeling good about myself and say, oh, let me post a picture on Facebook with my new hairdo. And I post my picture after having been in the salon. This is say when I was wearing locks. So shoot, even now with my hair cut off, I post a picture, and then later on he may get on Facebook. Unbeknownst to me, I'm asleep. He's kind of like you, a night owl. So he's up scrolling Facebook, and he sees a picture of my hair. Now, mind you, he's come home, saw my hair, said you look nice, that whole thing, but later on in conversation, I would hear, oh, so, you get your hair done, it looks nice, and you can't even send me a picture, but you post it on Facebook. And I'm like, really? You feel that way? And, in my mind, I thought it was really petty, but I learned through counseling that I had to respect his feelings about the subject. And that's how he felt. And that was something, it seemed really small to me, but it was a big thing. And because it was small, it festered into a big issue for him.
Yo. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening, downloading, and subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm 12 Kyle. Check it. On this podcast, we're going to talk about, are we socially inept? What effect does social media have on our relationships? Should, couples have social media rules? Can social media ruin relationships? Does it help or hinder infidelity? We're going to talk about all of that and much more. And I've got some special co-hosts coming through. My homegirls, Jawanna and Tiffany. So sit back, relax, we'll drop the theme music, and we'll get the podcast jumping. Let's get it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. It's your boy 12 Kyle back in the building. As I mentioned in the intro, man, we're talking about social media. We're talking about relationships and everything that involves all of that. And as I mentioned in the intro, man, we got some special co-hosts coming into the podcast for the first time. My first co-host, her name is Jawanna. She's a Libra. She has that be known. She's a Libra, born and raised in Orlando, Florida. She is a proud graduate of Florida A&M. She's an educator, recently divorced, and she's a mother of 3. She loves reading, working out, and shopping. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. Jawanna, what's up?
Hi, how are you?
Good to hear your voice. How's everything?
Good. Thanks for having me this evening.
Oh, no problem. Glad that you could come on. It's the first time with the 12 Kyle podcast. We do things a little different over here, but we like to have a good time.
All right, well, I'm always down for a good time. I'm excited.
That's what I'm talking about. My second guest is no stranger to me, at least. I've known this young lady for almost 10 years now. She does not hold her tongue. She too is she actually is from Orlando, but she's a Metro Atlanta resident. She's been married for 19 years. She's almost an empty nester. She has 3 kids, ages 20, 17, and 16. She's a fitness and health enthusiast. She does everything. She's all over the place. She's currently working on her memoir. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast for the first time. My homegirl Tiffany. Tiffany, what's good?
You tell me. Look, we got my homegirl Jawanna on the line talking about fitness, and I'm saying I'm an enthusiast, but I'm trying to be snatched like my girl Jawanna here.
Okay.
Girl, you got it together. You know it.
She said snatched. I don't think I've heard the word snatched in like 10 years.
We use snatch frequently.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
It must be a Florida thing.
We'll own it.
Oh man. So and I failed to mention, Jawanna, your kids are 17, 13, and 9. So
Correct.
and so we're parents here, but we're also talking about relationships and social media and how everything can and sometimes does go wrong. So let's start there. I guess we probably should start with the dating stage, right? And Tiffany, I'll start first with you with this question. If you're dating someone, how long do you think that you should wait before you become or allow your mate to become a part of your social media network, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, or whatever? If you're dating somebody, how long, before you allow them to, I guess, follow you or what have you like that?
Well, I think nowadays with social media being so prevalent, in many cases, people meet via social media. Mm-hmm. So when I think about it in that respect, the question then becomes, how long before you let your followers in your social circle know that you may be serious with another fellow follower, if you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or, you guys start posting pictures and, kind of revealing to your network that we are a thing. That's more so the question, because I think a lot of people nowadays, everybody is connected via social media. Mm-hmm. So I thought about it from that respect, like, what about revealing to people? Because like you said, you and I met almost 10 years ago, mm-hmm. via social media. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny, a little unknown factoid, we have yet to meet in person.
This is true. And that's not my fault. It's your fault. You lived in Florida and you moved here, and you've been here how long in Atlanta?
And this summer, in 18 will make 5 years.
And I have yet to see her. Now, that's not my fault.
Hey, you need to throw a party. You need to throw a party, because you had one when I was still living in Orlando.
This is true.
I missed out on, and I heard about it. But yeah, so you need to have a party. Okay. That's all I'm saying.
All right, y'all see what's going on here, but okay. I digress. But you're right though.
But if I had to put a time limit, I don't know if I could, because I'm married, so we might want to segue and toss that on over into at Jawanna's court.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to ask Jawanna. So let's start there, Jawanna. As I mentioned, you recently divorced, so dating, can and will become a thing for you. How long do you wait before you allow someone to enter that space of your social media, whether it be Instagram or what have you, Facebook or whatever the case may be?
Well, for me, I've heard others say that they wouldn't, but I think immediately. I don't think anything's wrong with it. Besides, I'm nosy, so I want to see who I'm talking to and what's going on and what they have posted.
I love it.
Others on your page. Are you a family man? What you got going? Mm-hmm. So I want to see you anyway. And it's nothing to hide. It shouldn't be.
Okay.
So I've heard some people say, that they wouldn't do it or they would wait, but I say go for it immediately.
I think both of you are right. I think, and obviously with me being married, I'm not dating anybody. But if I were in the dating game, if I was back on them streets, I think for me, I probably would be. I think if they asked, initially, or like you said, Jawanna, after a couple of days or whatever, I would allow that. I would allow them to follow me or what have you, like that on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. But if they didn't ask, I probably would wait until it got serious. But if we're dating, and let's say after 2 months it goes south, I'm probably gonna unfollow you. and I would expect you to do the same.
Follow you from the beginning.
What's that?
What are you hiding? What's the harm in having them follow you from the beginning.
You know what?
That's how I feel.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I think, some people, it just depends on the other person's level of involvement in social media, because some of us are more involved than others.
Right.
I'm pretty deep into it, so I really don't know how I could avoid it, altogether. As far as if someone said, okay, well, hey, we're dating, I want to follow you. What am I going to say? If I've got 500 followers on Twitter, if a young lady I'm dating says, hey, I want to follow you, I'm gonna look real crazy telling her no when I got 500 other random people following me, and this is someone who is trying to get to know me or whatever like that. And like you said, Jawanna, it could look, or at least appear, like I'm hiding something.
Right. That's how I would see it.
Well, can I put a little twist in there?
Go ahead.
What if they found you on their own, never asked you for the profile information, found you, kind of did their own snooping, started lurking, I don't know if they necessarily started following you, but just kind of lurking on your page and using that to, kind of dig up and ask questions and, conversation starters, and you're thinking, dang, I've heard this before. It's like, would that make you feel some type of way?
No, I don't see it that way. I don't have a problem with them following me and kind of finding out what my interests are, things I like, see what we have in common. That's how I see it.
So you would look at it as a compliment, like they're doing some homework, versus just coming right out and saying, hey, I ran across your profile, and, and then going from there, versus just keeping that
about it. I think whatever they saw, maybe they'll ask about it.
Okay.
But, I'm an open book, so I don't have, a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's a good question. I think if you're putting, and I've always kind of operated like this, if you're putting things on social media, then you have to, at the very least, assume that people have an interest in what it is that you're doing and what it is that you're saying. So I've kind of always been under the assumption that they probably were lurking long before they asked, to become a part of the network. You know what I mean? So particularly if your stuff isn't private, if you have like I've got a Twitter, and my Twitter is open to the public. So if somebody was following, you could lurk my Twitter handle, and so I have to assume that, because it's out there, I need to, if I'm seeing somebody, I probably need to be very careful about what it is I say, and I can't, do dumb stuff. And what I mean by dumb stuff is, like, fellas, when you tell her, you're texting her or whatever, good night, and you tell her you're going to sleep, and then you're posting on Twitter that you're at the club.
Exactly.
You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. And I've seen that happen before too.
Exactly. Those are the ones that don't want to be followed.
Right. Right. So, so you have to make sure that, whatever you're doing on social media kind of is in line with, your real life, so that's a good question, Tiffany. Let's see. Next question I had, and Jawanna, I'll start first with you on this one.
Okay.
As far as couples, right? Should they adopt quote unquote rules as for what they should or shouldn't post on social media?
I don't know if I would per se call them rules as much as I would respect factors.
Okay.
Of course they're grown, they're adults, so you want to be able to have that conversation and not tell an adult what they should or shouldn't do, but you should have enough respect for one another to not post things that would either make them uncomfortable or embarrass them. That's how I see it.
Okay. Now, would you kind of clarify that as a form of censorship?
I don't know if it's censorship. I think I stick with respect. I think it's respect. If you have enough respect for your spouse, you would value how they feel and their opinion anyway. So you wouldn't put things on there that would make them feel uncomfortable.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. Tiffany, what about you? Should there be quote unquote rules for what you should or shouldn't post on social media?
I may piggyback a little bit off of what Jawanna said, as far as I wouldn't call them rules. Definitely see it as a form of respect. But because rules to me denote censorship, in my opinion, that word just is like, this is a rule. So now I have this in my mind and I'm thinking, okay, I can't post this, I can't say that. So I'm feeling censored in that regard.
Yeah.
But as far as should couples adopt rules, again, have conversations. I can give a personal example.
Okay.
If you don't have a conversation, somewhere along the lines, things get fuzzy. So I had a situation in my home that came out years later in marriage counseling. I might need to censor myself, because if he listens to this, he may say, I don't want people to know we went to marriage counseling, but
tread lightly.
This is anyway. But what happened was, I didn't know that he felt a certain way about, and it was something as small as, and I later learned that other people had the same issue. So it's good that we talk.
Okay.
Say I would go and get my hair done, and I'd be feeling good about myself and say, oh, let me post a picture on Facebook with my new hairdo. And I post my picture after having been in the salon. This is, say, when I was wearing locks. So shoot, even now with my hair cut off. Mm-hmm. I post a picture, and then, later on, he may get on Facebook, unbeknownst to me, I'm asleep. He's kind of like you, a night owl. So he's up scrolling Facebook, and he sees a picture of my hair. Now, mind you, he's come home, saw my hair, said you look nice, that whole thing. But, later on in conversation, I would hear, oh, so, you get your hair done, it looks nice, and you can't even send me a picture, but you post it on Facebook. And I'm like, really? You feel that way? And, in my mind, I thought it was really petty, but I learned through counseling that I had to respect his feelings about the subject. Mm-hmm. And that's how he felt. And that was something, it seemed really small to me, but it was a big thing. And because it was small, it festered into a big issue for him. And so I learned. So, I would, that picture that I post on Facebook, I would send it to him first.
Well, like you said, that comes with the respect that I was just speaking of. And I know, like, in my relationship, or when I was married, my ex-husband wasn't on social media. Okay. But I was very cognizant and conscious of what I posted. So if I had pictures at the beach, or if I was in a bathing suit, I would say, oh, would this make me look like,
bathing
I'm not
suit.
married? Or would someone else see it and tell him, hey, I saw you with your wife? So I was very conscious of those things, even though he wasn't on Facebook. So it's a respect factor.
That's a very good point. That's the bathing suit comment is really interesting, because I can understand how you may or may not process that. If you just say, okay, hey, this is me in a bathing suit, or this is Throwback Thursday, let me just post this, like that, and you're not really thinking about it. So I totally understand where you're coming from. Before I comment, let me go back to what Tiffany said. And I know you're gonna say I'm bumping for your husband, and I know it's gonna sound like I'm bumping for your husband, because I am bumping for your husband, but that's another story. So I get it, and I'm gonna tell you why I get it, because I guess let me give you an example. Like, if you got a promotion at work, right, you would tell him first, right?
Right.
Okay, you wouldn't post it on Facebook or Twitter, right? It's the same thing. I think that he probably felt some kind of way, and I understand why he felt some kind of way, was that really when you took the picture, before you decided to share it on social media, and obviously you weren't sharing it with social media to, gain a whole bunch of attention or anything like that, but I just think like that picture should have went to him first. You know.
So would that be considered a rule?
You know what is? That's a good question, Jawanna. You know what it is, Jawanna? It's an unwritten rule.
Right.
And I think we have to, especially with the advent of social, because you got to remember our parents, grandparents didn't have to deal with this kind of stuff. At least not in the public eye. They dealt with other things.
Right.
I guess the thing is, to answer your question, it's an unwritten rule. And I think you have to kind of, as a couple, come to some type of understanding for what the unwritten rules are. As Tiffany mentioned, she and I met via Blogger back in the day when people actually used to blog. This is before Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and the whole nine. And I remember posting something, and my wife, she came to me, she was like, "Why did you post that?" And I was like, "Because I felt like posting it." And she was like, and that, you know, it's kind of weird because I think at the time, I don't even think she was reading my blog, you know, so, and I wasn't posting it to get like props from the ladies. It was just, and it wasn't anything salacious or anything like that. But I think basically her idea was that I was conveying some type of feelings and emotions about whatever it was that I felt. And she had to find out about those feelings through the blog, just like everybody, like the rest of the world did. Basically, I was sharing something, you know, that I felt on my heart with the world before I shared it with her. And so, you know, she felt some kind of way about it. And I was like, and, you know, and much like you, Tiffany, I kind of stepped back. I was like, it's no big deal. You know, and your words were the same words that I used. Oh man, that's petty. You being petty. But I had to learn. And then, you know, like you said, it's just unwritten rules. For me, to answer the question, I think because I initially was on social media really, really heavy before my wife even got onto it. I just had to be very cognizant of what I said. You know, I really, you know, I love music. I love hip hop. I love, you know, sports and football. And, you know, that's a lot of stuff that I would talk about, but I would talk about other things too. And I think one of the things that I had to be cognizant of is just not necessarily what I said, but how something that I said could be interpreted. Like if I get on Twitter, perfect example. If I get on Twitter and I said, man, and let's just say this is my tweet, man, she makes me sick. You know, people know who I'm talking about. I'm not talking about my sister. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about my aunt. You know, they can only assume. And so I think sometimes when you post stuff like that, it gives people an opportunity to make certain judgments or assumptions about what it is that you have or don't have in your house or your relationship. So I just became more cognizant of it. So to answer the question, should there be rules? No, I don't think there should be rules, but there are unwritten rules. And I think if you're cool and you're secure in your relationship, you know what those unwritten rules are, and you don't necessarily have to talk about them. But sometimes you do.
Yeah, sometimes you need a reminder.
Exactly. And you know, to answer the question about whether or not it's censorship, it is to some degree. And it, you know what? It should be censorship to some degree because when we came up, when we were growing up as kids, you know, what's one of the things that your parents always told you? You know, what happens in our house stays in our house. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think with social media, we've gotten so far away from that that train of thought that, you know, we just feel like sharing that everything ain't meant to be shared. It's just not, you know, so, and we have to be mindful of not just what it is that we share, but how whatever it is that we're sharing can be interpreted. So, you know.
Right.
That's just my 2 cents. But yeah, I am backing him up on that one.
That's the conspiracy. Okay.
Come on now, you know where I was going with that. Okay, so Tiffany, I'll ask you this question. With the couples that you know that are both on social media, is it mostly, you know, one being on more social media than the other? Or should there be a balance? Like, you know, the friends that you have that are on social media, is a situation where most of them one of them is really heavily involved and the other isn't, which could cause problems, or are they both on it? How do you think the balance should be?
Well, I think when I think across the spectrum, a lot of times it's both are on, but one utilizes the platform more than the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say if it's off balance or not, but what I can speak to is kind of something you said back when the kids were younger and social media and all that was kind of coming on the scene. I was knee deep in diapers and play groups, so I wasn't on social media. And my husband was on social media before I was. Like, he had Facebook and all that before I did. And so when I finally, tried my hand at social media, I was like, oh, this is too much. And so I wasn't on there as much still. So we have always had this off balance thing. So like when I got into Twitter, he used to feel like Twitter was our what do you call it? Like Twitter was my second love. So he used to have issue with me in Twitter. And it was only because he didn't use Twitter, didn't have Twitter, and that whole thing. And then remember, I don't know if you remember, but I got off Twitter for a while.
I remember that. You disappeared.
I disappeared. I just kind of pulled away from social media altogether. And it wasn't because of him, but I just, we go through those periods where we kind of want to fast and refrain from it. Well, somewhere along the lines, he picked up Twitter, and now I'm looking at him side-eye because he's constantly on there. But he, says it's for his, he uses it for his, work platform. And so he's tweeting and LinkedIn, and those are his two favorite social media outlets, LinkedIn and Twitter, versus, and I think he uses Instagram too, and he's rarely on Facebook and that whole thing. But so if I think of the people that I know, it's always a off balance. Either, they're both on it, but one has a profile and they're never on there, and the other is more active. And it's kind of like the whole yin and yang thing in relationships. So that's my perspective of knowing some of my friends and couple friends that I know. And then like Jawanna just said, she has social media, but her ex didn't. And I think it's typically like that. But then in households like mine and even yours, Kyle, I think we have people in our lives that have social media, but I rarely see your wife post anything.
Yeah, she don't.
Exactly, but I know she's got it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. She in the cut like I done. She in the cut. What about you, Jawanna?
I agree with Tiffany. I know people, either one is really heavily involved and the other one isn't, but they both have it.
Okay.
Yeah, right. That's how I see it.
Yeah, same here. I think, and it's the same reflection in my house. Because like Tiffany mentioned, we came from Blogger. So it's like all of us went from Blogger, and it's really interesting. And I talked about it on another podcast, how we all had blogs. And so this whole little network of us bloggers, we came to this medium called Twitter, and this was at the time, this was like 07, 08, I think. Like nobody knew what Twitter was, and nobody was on Twitter. So it was our Twitter family basically was just the people that left Blogger. And so like I remember getting a text message every time one of the people that I followed sent a tweet. So can you imagine getting a text message and our tweets were so infrequent. So you might send, I don't know, 5-6 tweets a day, and that was it. And so that was the way for us to keep up with each other. So for me, my evolution into social media, obviously it grew with the blog growing, and the blog turned into a radio show, and the radio turned into this podcast and so forth and so on. So it's expanded from Twitter to Facebook to Instagram and the whole nine. And still the blog, when I feel like touching it. But yeah, my wife, she's never been into it like that. She's on Facebook. She'll post stuff on Facebook a lot, but Twitter, she's there, but she's not there. Instagram, I don't think she's ever posted anything on Instagram. But I don't know. I'm starting to see more and more couples, kind of balance it out and get into it together. If you follow me, you know that I listen to one of my favorite podcasts, Tactless Know-It-Alls podcast, the husband and wife, Ty and Mia. They do it together. They're not on Twitter. Mia's never on Twitter, but Ty is on Twitter. But they host a podcast together, and I'm seeing a lot more of that. Because that kind of helps with the balance. But at one point in time, most of the people that I knew, they had a spouse or a significant other. One was heavily into it, the other not so much. And I think if there's not, you need to try to have some kind of balance, because it could be a situation where the other person kind of feels left out, And Tiffany will tell you, when in those blogger days, you could literally spend hours, because if you posted a blog, then people would comment on your blog, you'd comment back to them, and then you go check out their blog, and then you comment on their blog. You do about 10 blogs, that's a couple of hours. And so, if you're spending that kind of time in front of a computer or on a phone, your significant other, if they're not involved in it, they might feel some kind of way. So
exactly.
It's very
they may be on another social media forum. Like you said, Twitter, Facebook is something else that they may enjoy better.
Right.
Or some I think are not on because they don't want the back and forth with the spouse. Like I know I have a family member that he's on. I don't even want to know what's going on there, so I'd rather not.
Okay.
So sometimes that's the case too.
Okay. I think that happens more often than people are willing to admit. And then they just feel like, okay, well, I don't want the hassle, so I'll just stay away from it. And to be honest, there's some people who, maybe because of their past, they don't want, social media because they don't want people to be able to touch them. People from their past to touch them. That could be a good or bad thing. So my next question, Jawanna, I'll throw this to you.
All right.
Social media and infidelity. I've seen this talked about ad nauseum on social media. Funny thing there. So my question is, do you think social media helps or hinders infidelity or the possibility of infidelity in a relationship? And explain.
Oh my goodness, this is a very, very touchy question.
Hey, we'll touch it.
I hate to say that it helps infidelity, but it definitely does.
Okay.
Yeah.
How so?
Looking at the pictures and, like you said, old memories of what used to be, or someone you knew from the past, someone you may want to know. It's very easy to reach them on social media. And being that I'm single and I've been on it a lot more, I've been reached.
So your DMs have been slid into.
So I think, yeah. I don't think it helps relationships. I'll just say that.
Okay.
I think it's a hindrance to those who are weak enough to fall for just what they see.
Right. But okay, so I'm not gonna let you slide there. Okay, so let me throw this at you. So if I hear what you're saying, yeah, it does help because it gives you that exposure, but you still have to be man or woman enough to turn it down, right?
Oh, definitely. You have to.
So is that social media's fault?
I think, well, for me, people have reached out to me that I know I wouldn't see just walking down the street.
Okay.
I'll say that. Or, we're not in each other's company throughout the day or throughout our rustle and bustle in life. Mm-hmm. So they've only reached out to me via social media. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I think that if they saw me just out or they weren't on social media, I may not have even been a thought. Not just for me, but several people.
Okay.
But like you said, lurking or looking on social media, yeah, it happens.
Okay. Tiffany, what about you? Do you think it helps or hinders the possibility of infidelity, and why?
Definitely my answer to that would be both.
Mhm.
It helps it based on many of the reasons Jawanna said, because you just have instant access to a person via, technology, via their social media profiles. And you don't have to have a physical phone number. You can have Skype. You can have some of the old forms of social media. I can't even begin to name them right now. I can't even think of them right now. Kick, things like that. Black Planet. Oh gosh. MySpace. Am I taking it back?
Yes,
It's way back Wednesday. Yes.
Oh,
All the things of which I escaped because I wasn't, I was knee deep in diapers and stuff. But I remember that stuff. I remember hearing about it. But also it can assist and be a hindrance of sort, because now with technology you got screenshots. So now I got evidence that you and she or you and he been having conversations. I got a screenshot.
Oh my gosh,
Right.
that's funny.
I got this conversation.
You would think that would stop them because they know it's a screenshot. I don't know if they care.
That's funny.
It's in the back of their mind, but
Right.
you got some people who are just determined.
Right.
But so you got right. So you're leaving a footprint. Also, it can help with infidelity, because now I'm Cal's friend. Him and we like brother and sister. So guess what? Hey, Cal, give me your password. Let me log into your account so I can holler at somebody. So now I'm doing covert stuff. You know what I'm saying? So, I learned this through my teenagers. Teenagers share accounts. They have joint accounts and spam accounts where they can reach out to other people. I had my daughter blocked a young man from viewing her social media, and this young man was bound and determined to reach out to her, and he created a spam account just so he can get in her DMs, and it's just like, wow, these people are determined. So it can do a little bit of both.
Okay.
It can help and it can hinder if the person has some sense.
And just for the record, ladies and gentlemen, I have not created a profile for Tiffany to view. I don't want the streets saying that I did.
No, I'm saying
I'm joking.
Oh, okay. I'm about to say no. It's just like, but that's what I hear. They will share, and I'm thinking,
oh no, I'm very.
Why
very
would you do that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, why?
It will
Why y'all
definitely
do
be
that?
done. This is an interesting question. I think what social media does is that it gives people the ability to have the access. And what I mean by that is that, I'll go back to Twitter. If I have 500 followers, and let's say of those 500 followers, let's say that 400 are women. As cool as I think that I am, or as dope as I know that I am, I don't believe that 400 women, these 400 women that are following me want me. But there might be one. And in doing that, I think what social media does is it gives them a slimmer of access, not a whole bunch of access, but it does give them some access to me, which is, kind of what you sign up for with social media. There's certain things that you give up as far as, your privacy or what have you, because you're basically saying, hey, I'm going to share a part of my experience and part of my life with you, the viewing or listening public. But it does, I think it does give them that exposure for people to get in contact with you. Now, what you do with, and I would never blame social media for this, because I think ultimately you still have to think about what it is that you want to do and what it is that you're trying to do and what the consequences that may come from sliding into somebody's DMs, what comes with that.
Right.
And, you know, an old head told me a long time ago, like, you have to be he was talking to me as a man, and he said, you have to be 2 steps ahead of a woman. And he said, which is virtually impossible because women are always ahead of men. So a lot of time, and I'm not, what I know what I'm about to say is going to sound like I'm bumping for the fellas, but I think sometimes cats get jammed up because they don't see it coming. And then here comes the interest, and boom, now now you're jammed up. Now you're in a space that you don't even know how you got into. So I think it can help, but I think ultimately it exposes things. But I think ultimately you have to make the decision, and the call is, you know, if you want to go that road. If you want to take that road, right, you know, there's consequences and repercussions that come with everything in life. And so, you know, and like you said, screenshots nowadays, and everybody, I guess the thing that I'm realizing, and we all see it every day, you know, especially now with all the stuff that's going on, you know, everybody don't play by the same rules, you know. I mean, so I'll give you an example. Like, there was, you know, these athletes who, you know, decided to, you know, have a little something on the side or whatever like that. So they sleep with this woman, and, you know, sleep with a woman, you know, if it's good, you might fall asleep after it's over. And so you fall asleep, she's taking selfies of you sleep, you know. Yeah. So everybody don't play by the same rules. So now she got that, she can hold that over your head to blackmail you for more money, child support, whatever the case may be. So I'll leave it this part of the question with this statement that one of my partners told me a long time ago, and it holds true to this day. Technology ain't player friendly. It's just not.
It's not.
It's just not. And I mean, the sooner that you realize that, the better off you'll be. You know, you can create all of these fake accounts and all of this stuff like that, but, you know, technology ain't player friendly. So, you know, just you have to be mindful of all of this stuff. So, yeah.
And we're not even just talking new technology, old technology when we could call on a three-way and have the person on the phone quietly listening. So it's always been not very player friendly.
No, it's you're right. Even going back that far, and then remember that, you know, the text message era, you know, so it's, you know, and then, you know, situations where, you know, cats would get text messages, or women for that matter, get text messages, and you have, you know, their significant other or spouse, you know, going through their phones and stuff like that. So, you know, sometimes you can leave a trail. Sometimes you could be, you know, just sloppy and get jammed up. So I don't think social media, it definitely hinders and it exposes it, but I'm not going to blame all of social media, because I think the human aspect of it, you know, those are routes that we as humans choose to travel. So, you know, if you choose to travel that route, just understand that, you know, consequences and repercussions.
Right. But it still happens.
It definitely does. It definitely does. So that leads me to my next question. And Jawanna, I'll start with you. As far as social media, the part that it plays, have you ever seen it in people that you know, seen it ruin relationships, or at least help ruin relationships?
I have, unfortunately. But yeah, because it makes in the cases that I've seen, the person more jealous. They're not as trusting. And they're always looking for something.
Okay.
You know, accusing the person. So yeah, it's been a hindrance in that aspect. That's how I've seen it.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's good.
What about you, Tiffany?
I'm over here shaking my head, saying that's good. Didn't think about it like that, but I've seen on a personal level some of those character traits come out that I can relate to, and not for myself personally, I'll make that clear, but I actually have also seen it. It was the demise of a particular friend of mine's marriage was already there, but the what opened up Pandora's box was a friend request accepted from a long lost, I think long lost boyfriend, and it was very innocent.
Lord.
Right.
But she was an open book, and this person's insecurity came out, and thinking, like, did you think that you were the only person that ever loved this woman? Like, oh, she just got married and she ain't had no history before you.
Right.
So it brought up many.
Great point.
Yeah.
And so, it's like it brought out some of those things that Jawanna, named. But the fact remains, she was open, her page was open, but she also didn't know that she was being spied on, by her spouse. So that's a whole nother subject. But the whole point was nothing was going on, but it was a lot of projection on that person's part. And you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But it was there were already other underlying issues there, but that was one case that I do know about that helped to ruin a relationship. Absolutely.
Okay, so you threw out a big word, and I want to get both of your opinions on it. Insecurity. When we're talking about social media, if your spouse or significant other or boyfriend or whatever the case may be is insecure, would that make you take a step back from social media? Jawanna, I'll start first with you. Would that make you kind of fall back from social media if you are already in a relationship or in a marriage, for that matter, with someone that is insecure?
Yeah, I would, to save the relationship, but not without resentment.
Okay. Wow. Wow.
There would be some type of, you have resentment towards that person, even if you don't say it outwardly, and are complying and, trying to respect them and falling back. It's not really what you want to do. So there's going to be an issue anyway because of it.
Good point. What about you, Tiffany?
Again, I would have to acquiesce to what she's saying. Absolutely. I do. I think that it would make you not want to, follow that person's account. That way you just keep it like, you don't see what I'm doing. I don't see what you're doing. I don't want to see. You claim you don't want to see. But it brings about resentment because, you're thinking, why does it have to be that way? It should be fun and light. And if you do have issues, let's talk about it. But instead, that person's harboring and, really looking for something and making mountains out of molehills and all that kind of stuff. And it makes you fall back and say you don't even want to be bothered.
Right.
That's a
so you fall back, but it's not because you want to. And like you said, you're harboring those ill feelings because you feel like you had to for that insecure person, even if you don't say it to them.
Right. And I think that's where, like, you hit the nail on the head, Jawanna. I think I probably would fall back, but it would come, like you said, with a great level of, resentment, because especially if this is something that I like to do and I don't see any harm in it and I'm not doing anything to jeopardize us. I would feel some kind of way about it, because your insecurities mean that you don't trust me. And I have a huge problem with that, because I've always been a firm believer since I was like 8 years old. If I'm in a relationship and you don't trust me or I don't trust you, then we don't have a relationship. We just don't have it. We're going through the motions. And I've never been one to want to go through the motions of anything in life. So
it's almost a dictatorship.
It is.
Really.
It is.
Because now you're dictating, what I I can and can't do to save grace or to adhere to, your feelings, but, forgetting about how I may feel or how this may make me feel, but we are, catering to you. So you dictating how things are going down.
Exactly. And
Right.
and I'll use Tiffany and I as an example. So like if like my wife, but if let's say if you didn't know her, and then let's just say you just popped up on Twitter one day and we were chatting back and forth, and let's say she happened to see the conversation and it wasn't anything salacious or anything like that, and later on at dinner she asked me, okay, well, hey, who is this Tiffany? Who is this Tiffany chick? And I'm like,
it would be, who is this proactive?
oh yeah, who is proactive? Who is this proactive chick? And my response would be, oh man, that's Tiff from Blogger. That would be my response, and so I would try to make the connection of, yeah, that's Tiff from Blogger, but she would be like, okay, I don't know her, and then so if there's a level of insecurity, I can't explain the almost 10-year friendship that we've had. So now there's a problem. So now I got to sit here and try to figure out how can I make you comfortable with what it is that I have. And I can't even really explain how we, I can say, well, yeah, I know her from Blogger. We go way back, da, 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 da. And like you said, I think what you made a very key point. I think there's some people who are very insecure and they don't realize that, yeah, your boyfriend had, a couple of girlfriends probably before he met you. Your wife, she probably had a couple of boyfriends. She may even had a husband before she met you. So, everybody has a past. And
right.
I think, you have to, you can't hold on to that kind of stuff. And I haven't seen social media ruin any relationships, but I've seen those levels of insecurity ruin relationships, and off the top of my head, probably 3 marriages.
Wow.
So yeah, and it's sad because like for me, I'm on the outside looking in, and you can kind of just see the things deteriorate, and you can see the walls falling down, and you want to help, but how much can you do? You know what I mean? So it's really sad. But I had to ask you that because that word insecure, it means a lot. It means a lot, particularly in a relationship. So yeah, that is so true. I tell you what, let's take a quick commercial break, and back on the other side, we'll chop it up some more. So again, we're talking social media and relationships. I got Jawanna and Tiffany in the building. Sit tight. We'll be back in just a second.
Is that iced tea?
Nope, it's lemonade.
Is that iced tea?
Lemonade.
Iced tea?
What's with these people, man? Lemonade. Read the sign. Lemonade. Read it.
Okay.
Delicious.
Iced tea at a lemonade stand? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much money Marin saved by switching to Geico.
It's lemonade, man.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Welcome back. Once again, it's your boy 12 Kyle. The 12 Kyle podcast. We're talking social media, relationships, dating, and marriage, and the whole nine. And of course, I got Jawanna and Tiffany still in the building. So let's get it started again, man. Tiffany, this is an interesting question. Married couples when we're talking about social media, should married couples have each other's password and access to their mates' social media accounts? Why or why not? So, okay, there must be something inside in there because Jawanna started laughing.
That was the answer all in the show.
I'm just going to go black and white, and I'm going to say no.
Okay.
And then I'm going to say as to why not. Because I think the older that I get, you want a sense of privacy. Mm-hmm. That's just the bottom line. Do you have anything to hide? No. If you wanted to have access to it and you ask me, I'll give you access. But just to have an ongoing, let me see and lurk and do that, why? Yeah. And because then that's the greater issue. Then there's something deeper there, and let's resolve that. But to just have that, like, as parents, we have parental guides that we can set. They have all these settings that you can monitor your kids, but I'm not a child. And so I think that for the respect factor, you have to look at it from that standpoint, just to have that. And for me, that's a trigger area for me, because I feel like over time I've had my privacy violated on many occasions.
Okay.
But then it goes back to something you said, Kyle, where when you put things out in social media, if you have it set in such a way that people have access to it, then you are kind of up for scrutiny then, because you put it out there and anybody can see it. And so if it's brought to your attention, you put it out there. And so now, you kind of have to deal with what comes with that. But as far as, having passed, and we have this, it's almost like that unspoken thing you talked about earlier, just kind of unwritten rule to say, hey, I don't have anything to hide. And it's a popular YouTuber I listen to, and he says something. He said the test of a relationship is if you and your significant other or your spouse could y'all switch phones for a day. See, you ain't right.
Well, I say that, and I'm not saying that because I have something to hide, but
no, I know.
It's just, I think part of the problem with that is that, first of all, she get tired of it buzzing, because not only is there social media, but there's the group chats, there's the group text from the fellas. And so, like, I got, like, we got our little crew of our group chat, on GroupMe, but then I got like two other GroupMe not accounts, but two other GroupMe, things that I'm in. There's another group chat, and then there's a family text. I mean, so she probably get tired of my phone buzzing, to be honest. So,
right.
So that's why I laughed. But nah, we ain't switching no phones.
Exactly. And it's not because you having anything to hide. No. It's just because it's yours. But it's yours. If she had any issue, or if any, quote unquote insecurity came up, let's talk about it. Let's deal with that, and and go from there. Because if things are coming out where you're lacking trust and all that, that's a deeper issue that goes beyond having somebody's password and access. What you think, Jawanna?
Yeah, I totally agree. And just because we're a couple, you got to remember you're still an individual.
Yeah.
So sometimes you should be able to have to yourself. And Kyle, like you said, when you have GroupMe and you talk to your boys, that should be the time you should be able to say what you want to say to your boys. Your wife doesn't have to be privy to all of that. That's different. So, you get to, I guess, in lack of a better term for guys, let your hair down, be yourself with your boys. That's your phone, your privacy. That has nothing to do with our relationship and me having your password. So yeah, we're a couple, but you're an individual. So no, you keep your password.
and Amen. And there, I think there's something to that where when you're in a relationship, it's two individuals coming together to make this relationship work. But there should be some levels of individuality in the relationship. Because you don't want to, I don't care who you are or where you live or whatever your, financial situation should be. You don't want to be in a situation where you lose who you are in a relationship or a marriage. I don't think that should ever happen. I mean, does it happen? Of course it does.
It does.
But yeah, I can only think of, I think I know two couples that do this, and this works for them. My hat's off to them. I salute them, wholeheartedly for, having, access to, or having a joint Facebook account or what have you. I salute them for that. Personally, no, I don't want to do that. I just don't, it's that, like Tiffany said, there's certain levels of privacy, even in the most close knit of relationships or marriage. I respect the privacy, I don't, and I'll give you an example. Like if I'm on one side of the room and my wife's phone is buzzing or something like that, and she's like, hey, bring me my phone. I'm not going to look at the phone and see, who it is, because that ain't none of my business, and I feel like if something was going on, if there's a text message that's coming through that I ain't supposed to see, I'll see it. I might not see it at that particular time, but I'll see it.
Right.
Because I don't have. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna. All of these things tend to fester and show themselves to be whenever they're supposed to be seen. So, I don't think anybody should walk around in the dark, or anything like that. But I think it goes back to the level of trust. And if I trust you, I don't need your password. I just don't. And you don't need mine. And I've been in situations, to be honest. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Like, I've been in situations where I've been at my computer and left my computer, I've been on my email and left my email open. But there's nothing in my email for her to see, something that would get me in trouble or anything like that. So, so it was there. And I didn't log out, and I didn't leave it up for on purpose. Or let's say I didn't log out. And I never log out of Twitter. I never log out of Facebook. And if I'm looking at it on my computer, I just get up and walk out the room. So it's not like, again, I don't have anything to hide, but if I felt like I should log out or whatever, I'm not giving you my password. You don't need it.
Right.
You don't need it. And I don't need yours, So yeah, that's a very good perspective right there. So now, obviously, sometimes there are red flags. Jawanna, I'll start with you on this question. What are some of the red flags that people should look for when it comes to social media and their relationships?
Oh my goodness, that's a good question. Kind of piggybacking off of what we just said. Yes, you can have your privacy, but if I ask for it and you don't want me to have it for some unknown reason, that may be a red flag or could be a red flag. Mm-hmm. If you just don't want me to have it. Like you said, you get up and walk away from your Facebook or whatever. That's different than me saying, hey, can I see? And you're like, no. That to me is a red flag. That's different. Another red flag would be if you don't look like you're in a relationship on social media, to me.
That's good.
Can be
good
a red
answer.
flag.
Good answer.
Yeah, those are the ones that I think are the biggest flags for me, I should say.
Okay. Tiffany, what about you? What are some of the red flags when it comes to social media and the relationships?
Constant comments, the back and forth with the same particular person, extended conversation. I mean, you just said red flags. It's just something to be aware of. I'm looking at his post, and this same person, she's liking all the pictures, and she's always commenting back and forth. Another red flag would be, like you, I think you may have said something at the top of the show, but I go to bed. I'm early to bed, and then I'm married to a night owl. Mm-hmm. So, sometimes the time of social media activity can be a red flag. It's like, you and I are up together. You see me on social media. You may not want to be on it at the time. So you're not on it. Why you not on it now when you got the time? But then later on when I'm asleep, now you on it. You know what I'm saying? That could be something to think about as well. So just the differences in the frequency of when you're on it, and some of the things that you're doing on there and who you're communicating with. To me, that those can be red flags.
Now, you and I'll throw this back to you, Tiffany. A little earlier, actually before we got started, you were talking a little bit about your daughter teasing you as far as how you operated on Instagram. Talk a little bit about that.
A lot of times I don't use that feature in Instagram and it just may be because I don't really care, but the feature where you can go in to see who your followers, what they're liking and what they're commenting on.
Right.
I rarely use that feature. And she uses it a lot. And so she'll tease me, or she'll, remark or say something that I've said, and I'll stop and I'll say, "Girl, you was reading my comment," and she'll just chuckle. And, so I communicate with people, because the people that I connect with, especially if I have a private account, I'm going to communicate with you because we are connected. So I feel like we are social media buddies. So, if you leave me a silly comment, I might say something back to you, or, I'll see a picture of you and, your daughter, or, just knowing, when she was, your wife was pregnant with her, and after having, 3 boys, y'all finally get, the 4th one have a girl, and say, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe she's such a big girl now. She's going to school." But yeah, so we do that. And I know women, we're good men, y'all might laugh out loud and that be it. And so a lot of times what we say can be misconstrued as we are communicating, extensively or too much. And that's really not fair. I think just by nature, sometimes women can be a little bit more verbose than men. But, some men are too, but, they may just do it in other ways or on other subject matters, hip hop or sports. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Did you have something you wanted to add to that, Jawanna?
I think she nailed that one.
Okay. Yeah, and you're right. I think you're right. It's not fair for a man to, necessarily, I guess, kind of look down on the fact that a woman is, being, extra cordial, if you will, on another man's social media page. But that's how, I'm not going to say all guys, that's how some men think, and is it a level of insecurity? It could be. It could be. Maybe he thinks that she's flirty. Maybe he thinks that she might be a little freaky. I don't know. Yeah. But it's not fair. But that's the world that we live in.
Because they know their intentions when they're on social media too.
Hello, say that.
So
that's why.
So you're saying that men have evil intentions, or some men? I don't want to generalize. Some men have. Go ahead.
I'm saying if they're having an issue with the woman commenting, or, those things that Tiffany mentioned, it's because they know how they take the comments when they're on the receiving end. That's why.
Okay. So that segues into my next question. I'll throw it to you, Jawanna. Flirty comments. How should someone handle, getting flirty comments from members of the opposite sex on their mate's Facebook page? So you got a man, you got a boo,
okay.
And you got a Facebook page. He has a Facebook page, and again, he's lived a little. He's lived a few years prior to meeting you, right?
That's right.
so he's met a few women. And there's one woman in particular that's liking his pictures and commenting on his page, and the comments deemed to be flirty. Right. How would you handle that, given the fact that it's not your page, but you see what's going on?
It goes back to what you said in the beginning with those unwritten rules. You better know to check it. That's unwritten.
So he needs to know to check it.
whether he's reading my body language or my eyes, I hope he knows that means check them. No, but in all seriousness, I do think they should let them know. I appreciate it, but that was a bit much. You do know I'm in a relationship. Even if he has to do it through Messenger, however, I think that he should check it. And I don't see anything wrong with the spouse asking them, "Hey, did you see that comment? Do you think that is inappropriate?" Because I do. and then you leave it up to them to rectify.
That's going to be my next question. Okay.
Leave it up to
So
them
it's not
to
going to be a
rectify.
situation where you say something to them, meaning the person that's leaving a flirty comment.
If they don't rectify, I think I would eventually.
Okay.
But I hope that the boo would understand, hey, I need you to say something.
Okay.
And do it. I would hope.
Right. Tiffany, your take on it. The flirty comments on Facebook, man. How do you think that should be handled?
I think the easiest way is for the person to not acknowledge it. Right, meaning if because this has actually happened, and this was another issue that came up in counseling. So
let me go ahead and start defending him. I'm joking.
It would have been better for me to just not acknowledge that person's comment, because although it was not interpreted to me and that it was flirty, my SO felt some type of way about the comment that was left, and I blew it off like it was nothing. But it would have been safer if I would have just not acknowledged that particular comment and, maybe acknowledge everybody else's comment, just acted like I didn't even see what was deemed as quote unquote flirty.
Mm-hmm.
But we all know what flirting is, Tiffany.
But
right?
no, right, I do. But this wasn't, in my opinion, this was not. And that's why this was why the issue blew up and made its way on the couch in marriage counseling.
Okay.
Because this was a childhood friend. Like, we knew each other. Our parents were friends. We were like brother and sister childhood way back in the day. Mm-hmm. I posted a picture of myself right before at the gym, and he made the comment, you getting kind of thick there or something.
That is so and I love you with all my heart.
Yeah.
That's flirty.
Yeah, probably shouldn't have said that.
But now in my mind, I'm thinking that this person was kind of, because at this time I had just kind of got to Georgia and I was kind of, enjoying all the cuisine here. So I interpreted like this person know me like we childhood friends. They basically lightweight throwing shade, saying I'm getting kind of thick like fat, not thick in a thick way, in a curvy way. I genuinely thought that.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely felt that way. And so, see, it was left up to interpretation. And so I forgot what my comment back was. It was my way of throwing shade, as if to say, like, whatever, my man like it, type situation. Like, I ain't stunting with you.
If you responded responded with something with the spouse in it, that is checking them. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But how did you respond, Tiffany?
That's what I did. I said something real snarky like that, and I kept it pushing. Mm-hmm. Well, my spouse was very blown away, felt like it was disrespectful on that other person's part to say that, and they were really upset. And why did you even say anything? And I said, well, you know what? I guess I shouldn't have said anything. And so my immediate response was to just delete that person's comment from my Facebook. Well, before I could do that, we had already I thought we had squared everything away, because he coming down on me like I had done something wrong. And I'm like, I didn't have any control over what this person said, but he took it upon himself to go on my page and cuss the man out. And that to me brought up other issues. And so I deleted the whole thread, and it just was. And I had a situation before that, and we talked about this. It came up and it came to mind when you guys were talking, but I had my own father-in-law comment on a picture, and it was just out of out of, what do you call it? It was just kind of out of pocket.
Okay.
And so that's when I start like deleting family members like flies from my social media page.
Damn.
So yeah, definitely have had that happen. And I, to this day, could not understand, but I had to walk away respectfully, knowing that it bothered my spouse. But I didn't like the way he in turn handled it.
Yeah.
But it's like I felt like I was being blamed for someone putting a comment that I had no control over what they said, and the fact that I didn't take it that way. And he didn't understand why I didn't take it that way, because of the nature of me and this person's relationship, like you said, from childhood growing up. So I genuinely did not take it in a disrespectful manner.
Right.
And
but
so I
sometimes
didn't.
that causes problems in itself, because I know, you got to think about it when we're trying to make a point, or we want our significant others to see what we're talking about and they act clueless to it. That makes it even worse.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When they they don't see, well, I didn't see it that way. And you're like, everybody sees it. That's crazy. I'm not see it. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good
that
point,
kind of makes
Jawanna. That's a good point.
Yeah. That just kind of makes it,
you know what, man? I think
he would be upset.
I think, and again, I know I'm gonna make it so. I can't really bump for him on that one, because I think he handled it wrong, and I think even
absolutely, so wrong.
He should have let you, kind of handle that situation.
Exactly.
And I think he was wrong in blaming you for what was said, because you're right. You have absolutely no control over what someone posts on your or what they say to you. What you do, however, have control over is how you respond. And I think maybe given the fact of the nature of your friendship, you probably didn't feel like he was coming at you like that, because you don't see him like that. And so if you don't see him like that, then it didn't mean anything to you. Right. So I understand both sides in this case. As far as flirty comments, I think I agree with you guys. You have to let your spouse or your significant other handle that, and and hopefully that they'll handle it the right way. I think it's in your case, Tiffany. Like I said, I don't think you did anything wrong. You couldn't. I think you probably should have said something a little bit more stern, but or maybe literally checked him. Like, look, man, you can't, because people have to understand, like, particularly when you're married.
Well, that's why I said, what about not acknowledging it? What about that?
No, if you didn't acknowledge it, then the post is there, and people feel like they, it almost kind of opened Pandora's box, where people feel like they can say certain things. Like I've talked about this on other podcasts that I've done here on the 12 Kyle podcast. Like, when it comes to social media, now I'm not gonna argue with nobody online, because first of all, it's not that serious. It ain't nothing. Now I don't care if you're talking about Trump. I don't care if you're talking about the NFL. It's not that deep for me, because particularly with people that I don't know.
Exactly.
So I'm not here to waste time. But the flip side of it is that, more than anything else, it's just like how I carry myself in life. You're gonna respect me, and I think the level of respect, goes down when, even though he may not have meant anything by it, it was. I agree with your spouse. It was disrespectful. It's just, you're a married one, and here's the thing: it doesn't matter if you have 5 Facebook friends or 500 Facebook friends. Other people saw that, and there's a section of people that sat back and waited to see what the response was going to be, and. Exactly. A lot of times, again, it's not necessarily what's said, but it's how it's interpreted. And while you may not have interpreted and to be honest, I'm going to cut the brother some slack. Maybe he meant nothing by it, but it wasn't a good look. you know,
It wasn't good.
and I don't know if he's married, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he's probably not that close to your spouse, because if he was close to your spouse, he wouldn't have made that comment. Period.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
therein lies the problem. If it's a situation where he's cool with your spouse and he's joking, like one of my best friends, I call his wife a hater, because she is a hater. Like, she hates on her. But we all met in college and we all started dating around the same time. We all got married around the same time. But I joke with him, with his wife all the time. I call her hater because I talk about how she hates on our friendship. But, you know, even in me calling her a hater on Facebook or whatever like that, she knows it's in love, and it's, you know, we'll text each other and I'll say like, "What's up, hater?" or something like that. But I would never say something out of pocket, because even if I said something out of pocket to her, it's not necessarily about what I said, but it's how others may interpret it. And I'm never going to be disrespectful. And I think that's probably where that came off. And it's just about a level of respect. Each of our social media accounts, I don't care what platform or social media that you're on, should come with respect. And I think, you know, depending on how you come off and what you post and what you say and how you carry yourself, and sometimes how your pictures look, the lack of the respect or the self-respect could be on the down level, on a lower level. So it just really depends on how you handle it. So I think, again, I'm not going to beat you up for it. I think you handled it as best way you could, but I think he was out of pocket. The dude really was out of pocket, because my thing is, you know, in a nutshell, I don't think you should say anything on social media. And I learned this very quickly with my spouse, with my wife. Don't say anything that you would not want to say in a room with them sitting right next to you. Period.
Oh, I like.
So if it was your Instagram and you just got a fresh haircut, and I'm like, "Yo, Tiffany, you looking kind of fly like Jasmine Guy." You know, I mean, I'm a rapper on the weekends. But if I said that, I have to be comfortable enough to ask myself, would I have said that if my wife was sitting right next to me? You know what I'm saying? And if the answer is yes, then I post it. If the answer is no, then, you know, it's probably not something I should post. And I think if we carry ourselves like that, and when I say we, I don't mean just the three of us, I mean everybody, I think that'll cut down on confusion.
Yeah, that's a good rule of thumb. I like that.
It is, and trust me, it's a conversation we've had, and I just, you know, it might have been something that was said to me, and it had to be like years ago, but I remember like. And going back to the blog, and we'll move on to the next question. And Tiffany, I don't know if you ever did. I'm sure that you did. I'm sure that I remember you posting pictures of the kids, and I'm almost certain I remember seeing your husband on there. But I remember, like, for a while, like, and because my wife wasn't on social media, like, there were no pictures of us. And this is before, you know, Facebook and Instagram and all this stuff like that. But there were no pictures of my blog of her. So people knew that I was married. They knew that we had kids. But there was no picture of my wife. And I think that might have opened up some things. And that's just me looking back on it now. That may have opened up some things, or may have given people, you know, maybe some ideas that, you know, maybe everything wasn't cool. You know, I don't know. You know, it's just something I look back on. But, you know, subsequently years passed, and then, you know, she started being on there, whatever. Just something to think about. Couple more questions before we get out of here. Tiffany, I'll start first with you. Is it possible to have too much PDA on social media? When I say PDA, I mean public displays of affection. Is it possible to have too much? And if so, how do you handle that?
In the form of what? Because to me, PDA, I'm thinking of it in the physical sense. So, like, you know, posting pictures of, you know, y'all kissy face, or just posting pictures of your significant other, meaning, you know, you're displaying your affection for them, you know, best spouse challenge and all of those things. Is that considered PDA?
Yeah.
Well, I would say Shoot, that's tough. I would say it's kind of subjective.
Okay.
Right.
But because I know, like we talked about earlier, with couples and some having social media and some not, or some utilizing it more than others. I see a lot of people doing those my husband challenge and my wife challenge and all those in 10 days and doing that. I never participate in those things because I think it's a false sense of, and I just don't feel the need to have to do that. And plus, I'm an outside the box person anyway, so I don't want to do it because y'all want me to. I'll do it on the
facts.
I'm gonna do it on the off. If that ship sailed and I'm bringing it back 2 years later, I'm doing one. Like making it a thing again. But no. And also, it also can cross boundaries. You said something a minute ago, Kyle, where you talked about back in blogger days and not posting pictures, and people may assume. Number one, I wouldn't care what people assume, because if you look through some of my feed, I don't post pictures of my spouse because I have to respect their line of work. I don't want to post anything that might put them in a precarious situation. I might post pictures. We got drinks going on, and you don't
want to mess up the bag.
Exactly. Exactly. You know what?
Right.
Exactly. And also because they have their own social media page, that I leave that up to them. But if it is a situation where it's something that I really think is endearing and I want to post, I say, hey, I'm going to post that picture of such and such. And then, I'll go from there. But for the most part, I don't participate in too much PDA, but what another person does is their business and it's not mine. But how can I combat that? Well, I just don't do it, and I just leave it at that. And I respect that this is my page, so I'm gonna post what I want to post on it. And that means if you don't like me to tell your business, or if you don't want me to put your business out there, or anything like that, then I'll leave you to post your stuff, and we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah,
that's just how I do it.
Good point. What about you, Jawanna? Is it possible to have too much?
No, I think you can have as much as you want that you and your spouse agree upon. If you all like to kiss, be hugged up on your photos, great. What's for one may not be for everybody. But if that's what you want to post, then it's all good.
Yeah,
I don't.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that was it. I just don't think it's too much. It's whatever you guys are comfortable with.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, because it really goes back to the level of comfort. And I'll give you an example, like my brother and my sister-in-law, every picture they post, it's the two of them, and they talking about their love for each other, and they genuinely love each other. And I love my brother is, that's my dude. So, and I love my sister-in-law to death. And they've been together forever, it seems like, and they've been married for, at the time of this recording, 16 years. And I have, beautiful niece and two beautiful nephews, two handsome nephews. And so, a lot of times on Facebook, they'll post pictures of each other, pictures together, or just say, hey, this is the person that I love, so forth. They got matching tattoos and the whole nine. Now there's a contrast. You won't see pictures of me and my wife. You'll see pictures of us together, but you won't see those kind of posts. And I don't think that I don't think he's doing too much, or I'm doing too little. It's just a level of, and it goes back to what Tiffany said, where I'm more heavily involved in social media and she isn't. I let her do her thing, and then we'll post stuff together. We'll tag each other sometimes on stuff, and then other times, it just won't be. And that goes even down to, obviously our love for our children. We all, the three of us on here are parents. I remember a long time ago with the blog, our oldest son and our middle son, our oldest son Dion and Cameron, I took a picture of them on the beach, and I posted a picture on the blog. And to be honest, I wasn't even thinking about it, but on the picture, they had on swim shorts or whatever, but they were shirtless, and their chests were showing. But I mean, they couldn't have been. They was like, I don't know, 8 and 5. You know what I mean? So they were young, and my wife said, you have a public blog. Do you think it's wise to post a picture of two little boys with their chests exposed, for the world to see? And when she said it, I was like, are you serious? Like who thinks like that? I mean, like I was borderline offended, that she even brought it up. Yeah. But after being offended, I stepped back and I was like, you know what? You're right. So maybe I shouldn't, this is my thing. Maybe I shouldn't have, maybe maybe I should just do a headshot. So I ended up going back again, cropping the picture, and it's just, you can just see him from the neck up. And she said, well, her thing was like, look, you don't know who's looking at this. It could be some pedophile looking at it. You just don't know. And I was thinking like, I don't want to operate in that space where I have to, kind of go back what you mentioned earlier, Jawanna, as far as censorship. But, then I had to step back and like, look, it's not me. It's these two little boys,
Right.
And so then it got to a point where I was like, okay, as you get older, I mean, and as they've gotten older, you post less and less pictures of them because, this is their thing. You want them to have, they'll get their own social media and they have their own identity and so forth and so on. So yeah, there can be too much. And I think, you have to kind of come together and figure out, how and where you draw the line as far as the two of you.
Right. That's a personal choice.
Exactly. It totally is. Last question. And Tiffany, I'll start with you on this one. Relationships, particularly when you see them on social media. Do you think people are quote unquote as happy as they appear? Or do you think people post stuff to, portray an image and maybe their relationship ain't the Obamas?
Again, that's another subjective. It could be subjective because people get that is their page. They get to control the medium of what is being put out there for the masses to see. Mm-hmm. So of course they're not gonna want to portray themselves in a negative light. And no one, if you're honest, no one wants to, scroll through and see all the, hate mongering and, negative posts and, bullet wounds and we done got in a fist fight. I mean, that would be, that would be interesting fodder. But the reality is, we won't see that. We'll see the, the fake smiles and platitudes, or what is telling is what you don't see sometimes.
Mm-hmm. That is so true.
It's saying yes. That's saying a lot as well.
True indeed. True indeed.
Yeah.
What about you, Jawanna? Where do you stand on that?
I absolutely agree. Like she said, no one's putting the negativity from their lives on their page. So, we do get to see just the smiles and the family pictures, not knowing the story behind it or if they're really happy or if it was just a picture for that moment. Mm-hmm. But that's what we get to see. They're not going to show us all the ugly with it. But like Tiffany said, what's really telling is what you don't see. Mm-hmm. Not putting it up. That's when you know.
Exactly. And I agree. I think it's, if you look at it, you have to look at all of that stuff with a grain of salt, and you have to take it for what it's worth, and understand that everybody's not as happy as they appear to be, because life ain't like that, And I think while we don't necessarily want people to put every stinking detail of their relationship or their marriage online, don't be fooled by the smiles and everything like that, because it's. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. I remember someone asked me when we had our anniversary, someone said, well, how did you make it work this long? I was like, I'm not doing it. It's not magic. We're two people that are working towards something and we work towards it every day. And I was like, but, don't get it twisted. There are days where, we going at it, and I'm going to tell you, and the reason why I say that is because we are two headstrong people. So if she says the sky is red and I say it's purple, I mean, both of us are going to stand on that. So we're not going to back down and and try to just, save face. Now she might be the one that come around and be like, oh, well, you know what? I think you might be right. Me, nah, once I dig my heels in, I'm digging in, so, and that can be a problem. And, there have been days where, we walk around this crib not speaking, so, but I think that's, that's typical, but you're not going to see that in an Instagram post with us and our 4 kids. You know what I'm saying?
That's
So,
right.
Don't let the pictures fool you. I mean, we go through stuff, and I'm sure Tiffany, you've gone through stuff. Jawanna, you've gone through stuff in your marriage. We've gone through stuff. So I think if you really want to get a peek into what it is, you probably won't see it on social media.
You're not going to see it on social media. That's it.
That is so true. So we have come to the conclusion of the podcast. Man, I gotta say, I really enjoyed having you ladies on here. Tiffany, is there anything did you want to say before we get up out of here?
I don't know. I feel like I've aired enough of my dirty laundry.
You've been helpful to someone.
Yes.
Okay.
What about you, Jawanna? Any final thoughts?
No, it's my first time ever doing this. I want to say thank you. I enjoyed.
No problem.
It was very enlightening. You've given me lots to think about. As I move forward in my own dating life. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, we got to get you back on the podcast so you can come back and tell us how the dating life is going.
I agree. No, and I do. I thank you. I thank you once again for having me to utilize my voice and share my little old thoughts. And just, it was a great conversation. It got me thinking about a lot of things. It makes me want to run away from social media, but, hey.
We're gluttons for punishment.
It's here to stay. Exactly.
I gotta thank you guys for coming on. This has been very enlightening, and this has been a lot of fun. And hopefully, those of you listening that you got something from it. We're not here to bash social media. We're just saying relationships are very important. Marriages are important. Friendships are important. And I think as long as we put those things in and prioritize those things, I think we'll be okay. So again, ladies, thank you for coming on the podcast. This will not be the last time that you get on the 12 Kyle podcast. That is a promise.
All right.
All right, man. That's going to do it for us. So for Jawanna, for Tiffany, I'm your man, 12 Kyle. We'll catch you guys next time. 5,000.
Bye.
Peace.
We were